the FDC role and the slash battery commander. The reason I say slash battery commander is because in real life FDC would be higher than a battery commander. It's a fire direction center, and that's not one person. It's actually a big ass radio station where requests for or calls for fire are handled. So all the FOs send their requests to an FDC, and then the FDCs decide what to do with the requests, and then send them to a battery commander and tells them, "I want you to do this." This also means that the FDC are actually the guys in charge of what fire should be given in a request for fire. We tend to at UO treat a call for fire from an FO like that's the only thing that matters, but in reality, the FDC decides what matters and what doesn't matter, and he has his own orders. He bases his decisions not on a tactical situation on platoon level, but on the battalion or even brigade level. That's where he puts his focus. So he doesn't really care about that a platoon is pinned down and needs assistance if that doesn't fit in with the big plan. If the big plan is to achieve breakthrough in one place, they will focus their energy there and nowhere else. It also depends on the logistics situations. If we have a bajillion rounds, we can easily get more rounds. Then the FDC would pretty much respond to every call for fire. But if we only if we gotten the ammo we can for today, which is 50 HE, then we're only going to use the HE we need to use to complete our missions and nothing more. So an FO, that's the word for a forward observer. He can also have different sets of qualifications. He could just be a regular infantryman with a radio that happens to switch on to the fire support net and say, "I need fire support right around there, and I'm here." And I don't know, shoot the things. Or it could be a trained officer or trained sergeant who knows exactly what he needs to say in order to accomplish his objectives. But what's important for you to know as an FDC is what kind of FOs have priority. Is it only the company level FOs, the platoon level FOs, or any FO that joins on? You usually get some sort of priority. Like when we did the Hammondsburg event, then Kraus was the FO. He had priority. Then I came in second for fire requests, and then Falcon came in third, and then everyone else. So pretty much, if anyone asked for fire and me and Falcon or Kraus came on the net and requested something else, then the FDC would drop what he was just doing and start responding to our request instead, because we were more important. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. FOs would, if they have training, they would usually request something very specific. They would request a fire force, either a grid, a shift, or a polar mission. You're gonna learn what that is. They're gonna request the amount of guns they need. They're gonna request the amount of rounds they need, and they're gonna request what type of ammunition they need and what type of fuse they need. If they we're gonna go over how to do this more simply, but pretty much what the FDC would do is just repeating what the FO says, and then based on what the FO asked for, and they'll make something that makes sense according to that. So if I'm getting ahead of myself here. Any questions on what an FDC or slash battery commander's job is? For now.
What's it short for, FDC?
It's for Fire Direction Center.
Roger.
And that's why I find it's usually a bit of we use that wrong here at UO. We should just call it battery commander, because that's what they are usually. We don't have enough artillery to need an FDC in when we play missions.
Yeah, it's kind of a misnomer when they call it an FDC in our missions.
Okay, so what we're going to go over next is the different kinds of ammo and the different kind of fuses for those types of ammo, and what they're used for and how they can be used. You might want to write some of this down. If you don't feel you can write it down, I'll give you a link to a guide later where you can read through this and to remember it. The first thing, our favorite round, we use that all the time. HE, also called high explosive. This is a versatile type of ammunition. It can be used to destroy almost any type of target we face on a battlefield. It has it also has a lot of different fuses, which makes it a type of round for different things. The most common used one is fuse quick, also known as point detonate. That is that of course means that the round explodes when it hits the ground. It's good for fast missions and simple missions. It should be used against infantry and maybe light vehicles. What it does is when you hit when you make it explode on the ground, you get some damage to the ground and you get a fragmentation effect that kills infantry and damages light vehicles to a level where they pretty much useless. Next type of fuse we have for HE is delay. Delay means that once you hit the ground, the grenade will delay its detonation by 0.05 seconds. So it's very shortly, but it's just enough for it to penetrate something like a building roof or a bunker roof or something like that. This type of ammo is really good for destroying enemy fortifications, or if enemies are inside houses. And if you have time for it and enough ammo for it, you can even use it against heavy vehicles. If the enemy has parked a bunch of tanks or PRDMs in the middle of the road, you can do a HE delay fire mission on them, and you can pretty much destroy their vehicles if you hit them spot on. But it's hard to do and it takes time, and the enemy would usually respond by moving. Next, we have two other types of fuses for HE. They pretty much do the same if you use them correctly. We have time fuses. When you do a fire mission in the battery computer, then you would usually get a time of flight. That time of flight is used for the time fuse. And it can be used. You usually use that for doing what's called airburst rounds. So you know how long the round's gonna fly, and then you're gonna set the time on the fuse 0.5 seconds shorter. So that means it explodes right above the ground, and that gives a larger frag effect. That's good for again good for infantry in the open or infantry in foxholes, because when the round explodes above the foxholes, you get frag into the hole. Proximity, also called VT, pretty much the same thing. It explodes. It has a sensor, so it explodes when it senses it's getting close to the ground. That's why proximity rounds should only be used in what's called a high angle mission, where you aim the gun really high and make a steeper angle, so it gets to get a steeper angle on the ground. Because if you do a low angle, then you might risk the round goes off because it gets too close to the ground.
High angle means lots of airtime.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem with that is, of course, you get you risk that you delay the fire mission too much if the round is 60 seconds to get to the target. Any questions on AG and the different fuses? And if something doesn't make sense, just go ahead and speak up, because I'm just sitting here looking at my notes. Okay. Next thing is white phosphorus. It's a pretty obvious round. We're just gonna go over it pretty fast. White phosphorus is basically a grenade that filled with phosphorus. The good thing about phosphorus is that once it gets in contact with air or with oxygen, it will burn. And it will burn until there's no more phosphorus. So once a white phosphorus round hits the ground, you get a big white cloud of smoke. That's awesome. It's really good to screen your movement, and if you don't care about the Geneva Convention and stuff like that, it's pretty good to kill people too, because it burns like a motherfucker, and the only way you can extinguish it in real life is pour water on it and scrape it off with a bayonet. That's pretty much the only thing you can do about it. So you have to cut yourself just to get it off. It comes with most of them comes with a point detonate fuse and a time fuse. So point detonate, you get a smaller area of effect, but you can do the fire mission more quickly. Time fuse, you get a large area of effect, but you're more vulnerable to wind in real life, at least. Where the round explodes overhead and the white phosphorus showers down on the ground. But if there's enough wind, the column of smoke will dissipate quicker. Questions on white phosphorus? Yep. Okay, next round is DPICM. Object, do you remember what it stood for?
Dual purpose
improved conventional munition.
Yay.
Cool.
Basically what the DPICM is, it's a time-fused weapon, like HE and white phosphorus can be. And what it does is that when it is above the target area and have reached this end time, it blows up and expands a bunch of sub-munitions. And once these sub-munitions hit the ground, they explode on impact. So they basically work like small cluster bomb units. It has an extremely good effect against infantry and foxholes. Again, because the sub-munitions come down from above. DPICM is very much used here at UO because of the large area of effect, and because of it's like insta kill. You can insta kill a squad with one round of DPICM on target. In real life, the problem with DPICM is that not necessarily all of these sub-units explode. So you can end up creating a minefield for yourself if you're not careful.
Or just the guys from the ground may pick the shells up and create IEDs from it as well. That's a known problem of it.
Yeah, exactly. But of course that's not a concern in UO, but it's that's why you would limit your use of that in real life. You only use that as a panic option. We also have illumination rounds. These are also white phosphorus rounds. They're just made differently so that when they blow, only the outside of them burn, so they don't, so all the phosphorus don't burn at once. That makes for a longer lasting flame instead of a big puff of smoke. What happens is when it blows, parachute inflates and the phosphorus hangs in below that parachute, going lower to the ground while it burns a big white light. In real life, infrared illumin rounds also exist, which are really a force multiplier if you have night vision and the enemy doesn't. Are there any questions on the rounds mentioned now? Okay. Next things are more fancy stuff. We have the fast cam family. The fast cam family is a family of scatterable mines. So there's mine-laying munitions. They're time fuse operated, and they work pretty much like the DPICM. Only difference is the sub-munitions do not blow on impact. They land on the ground, and then after a while, they arm themselves. So that means you can use those to deny ground to the enemy. We did that on the Hermannsburg event as well, where we put out a bunch of these to prevent the enemy from getting armored reinforcements into the area. We have two different types of fast cam ammo. We have something called RAMs, Remote Anti-Armor Mine System. They're powerful enough to defret a tank and maybe even kill the driver. And we have something called ATOMs, which are aerial denial artillery munitions. And those are pretty much just your basic anti-personnel mine. It's pretty much DPICM rounds that just explodes when you step on them instead. If you want to be a real asshole, you can put out the RAMS rounds in an area, and then afterwards bombard that area with the ATOMs rounds. So you create a part anti-tank minefield and a part anti-personnel minefield. Last type of grenade we're gonna go over here that is used commonly is the SAT-ARM, Search and Sense and Destroy Armor. This is what's called smart submunition. So what happens again is the grenade explodes above the ground on a time fuse, and then 2 little shells act. I'm just getting better in English.
Go easy, dude.
Again?
Go easy, dude.
Yeah. I'm just taking a break here. Okay, so these 2 submunitions expand for the round and deploy themselves in parachute. These 2 submunitions will then, using magnetic sensors most likely, will sense if there's any armored vehicles in the area, a heavy presence of metal. And then once they sense that, they will deploy some fins and activate a little rocket that will propel them into the target. And then they basically work as a heat round when they hit the tank or the car or whatever they find. Those mean bugs, apparently they don't work as they're supposed to right now, but I think someone's trying to fix that. The main problem about SAT-ARM rounds is that from the time the round explodes at the first time, it takes about 15 seconds for the submunitions to sense where they are and sense where enemy targets are and engage. So you should most likely use those against static targets. If you use that against moving targets, then you should have to very accurately predict where they're going to be in the time of flight, which could be 60 seconds, and then an additional 15 seconds. Okay, so that's all the munitions. We ran over them pretty quickly. And I'll just touch you that guide later where you can read it. Are there any questions or comments for now?
Sure. All good.
Okay. Next phase is gonna be briefly going over the FDC computer, how it works. We're gonna spawn some FDC Humvees, and I'm gonna talk you through what you need to put in the different boxes in order to operate this effectively. If you can, once you get good at operating these FDC computers, you can actually very quickly get a fire mission ready if you get the information you need. The FDC computers, we have 2 of them. We have one in the Paladins, you see parked on the airfield. They have their own FDC computer, each vehicle. So basically, they pretty much just need a grid and a target elevation, and they can fire. You can also do what's called a shift mission and a polar mission with those, but I'll get into that later because it's a bit more complicated to do on those than on the than in the Humvee we have here. So yeah, Upchuck is already gone ahead. Sweet. So follow me.
Hey, Godhand, just load him in the truck that's there next time, and you can just group teleport him.
It takes like 10 days. Okay. If I could, I would actually fill up each Humvee with guys and just have you look at it together. But only one guy per Humvee can actually access this stupid computer. So one guy in each Humvee. We're gonna have to spawn some more, I think.
Okay. Let me know how many more.
Yeah, how many guys do we have?
Yeah, count one more
2,
coming.
3,
4.
4.